as a people, we're not really good at. It's almost like, it seems to me, as a people, we have to have an enemy. Doesn't it to you? I mean, it's like if we have an enemy, we've got someone that we can all be opposed to. But now that we don't have any enemies, we sort of go after each other, because we're still into that. We have to create that kind of a relationship in which somebody has to be right and somebody has to be wrong. If you can let go of that in your own life, manifesting becomes a real possibility. I think it's true in healing as well.
Yeah. See, the American Indian poem that Wayne was talking about, it's a great thing to remember whenever you get caught up in the ego. Because the ego is full of self-importance, and Castaneda also has said that self-importance is a mask for self-pity. That one way you can know whether a person is feeling sorry for themselves is that they act very important, because that's what they're trying to cover up. And so self-importance, self-pity, ego are all the same thing. And this is a Ojibwe poem. It says, "Now and then I go about pitying myself, and all the while my soul is being blown by great winds across the sky." And every time I sort of get caught up in that, I just recite the poem to myself. I say, here I am going about pitying myself, and all the while my soul is being blown by great winds across the sky. You were mentioning baggage handlers. A few weeks ago I was getting my baggage checked in Chicago, and there was this young...
Did she have a cold? Was it somebody with a
Actually, it was a young man. He was probably 18 or 19. He was Afro-American, and he had unbelievable sparkle in his eyes. And I was loading my bags, and his eyes locked into mine, and he said, "Deep stuff, man." I said, "What?" He said, "Deep stuff, man." So I said, "Oh, so you understood it?" He says, "No, but it sure sounded true." And that's the difference between knowing and rationalizing.
Yes.
You don't have to know this. A child knows this. This is the kind of thing that doesn't need experience, because it's timeless.
I had a great experience this summer, Deepak. I don't know if I talked about it in Greece, but I don't know if you were in the audience at that time. This past summer, we were on Maui with our entire family, and we have a little girl who was 7 at the time. She's now 8. Her name is Sage, our youngest daughter. And she has had a thing called flatwarts on her face since she was about 3.5 or 4 years old. And every time we would take her to any medical doctor, they would always tell us the same thing: these are flatwarts. They can't be treated. There's no known cure for it. We don't want to burn them off because they could scar her face. They will go away, and so on. And she's heard this, but 3.5 years later, not only has she still got them, but they're progressively getting worse. And this past summer, I noticed when she was out in the sun that they were not only around her mouth and around her nose, but they were moving up around her eyes now. So her whole one side of her face was covered with these flatwarts. And she never liked the word flatwarts. She didn't think that was a nice thing to call them, so she called them her bumps. The person that called them flatwarts was her sister, Serena. You got flatwarts. And she hated to hear that word. So we were over on Maui, and there's a doctor over there. His name's Kenny Mallet, and he's a person who has decided to practice where he loves to be. He's a surfer, and he's also a dermatologist. So he decided, I'll open up a practice on Kihei. And he comes to a lot of talks, and he reads the books and the kind of things that Deepak and I do, and so on. And he's always sending me things, and I send him things, and so on. A really young, bright, spiritual guy. Very unusual in the medical community. I mean, for him to be attending my lectures.
This concludes Side A. Please stop the tape and turn it over to continue the program on the other side.
were over there, we were getting some sunscreen and doing all these things, and I said to him, would you mind taking a look at Sage's face here? And he said, he looked at it and he put this big white light on her face, and he said, oh, Sage, he said, you've got flat warts. And right away she went, oh, great, that's what I need. And he said, but the good news is that when you get married, you won't have them. And she's 7, so I mean, she was really concerned about her wedding day, you see. He said, they will go away, and there's really no known cure, and all the things that we have been told about these flat warts, it's a virus, it's in the skin, it'll go away. And so finally he said to her, he said, but he said, the thing that he said, I can't give you any medicine for them. But he said, I have found that inside of you, there is the ability to get rid of these things. That the virus is in you, and also the cure is in you. So that if you start talking to these things, and talk to them in a way in which you say, I really accept that you've been with me for 3.5 years, but now I would like you to please leave. And you put your energy and your inner healing capacity that you have, you can get rid of these things. And Sage was like, oh, her eyes got real wide, and she was listening because she's had these for a long time, and it's troublesome to her, even though she never really acknowledged it outside. And we went back to the place on the other side of the island where we're staying, and when we're on Maui, the kids kind of go to bed when they want, and they get up when they want, and they have their friends over, and the rooms are filled with people, and they eat pretty much when they want. It's just a freedom time, all right? And I went into the room about 2:30 in the morning, and all of the children, there's maybe 8 or 9 kids with their friends, and they're laying on all the different air mattresses and so on, and they're all jabbering and talking away, and over in the corner, there is Sage, and she's under a blanket on her air mattress. And I reach under the air mattress, and she's got this blanket, and I said, Sage, what are you doing under there, honey? It's almost 3 o'clock. She said, shh. I said, what? She said, I'm talking to my bumps. And I left, and I walked into the bedroom in the other room, and I said to my wife, I said, hey, guess what? You're not going to believe this. Sage is in there talking to her bumps. Isn't that great? So that we didn't think any more of it, and the next morning I looked at her, and they were still there, and that night, the next night, and the same thing happened again the next night. I went in there, and she was talking to her bumps. This was now Wednesday. Well, what I want to tell you, she'd had these for almost 4 years. On Friday of that week, 4 days after she had heard that and been talking to her bumps, not one single bump or flat wart was left on her face, and not one has appeared since then. Wow. Now,
see, but Sage doesn't have an ego.
Exactly. That's the whole point. And I said to her, I said, honey, what did you do with those bumps? She said, they're not bumps, they're flat warts. And she said, I gave them to Serena. But inside of us is that knowing, is that little child who doesn't say, oh, I can't really heal myself of these things. I don't have the capacity to do that. She has something inside of her. I don't know what you call it in the medical community. What it is an intention. You were talking about intent. And a knowing and an absence of any thought that I can't do this. She was so determined and convinced that she was going to do this that the energy to heal herself of something she'd had for almost 4 years was there. And to this day, her face is as clear and smooth as a child's could be.